Hi, Bighara here with another installment of my video blog. Going on with the second part of this little series about some classic D&D and D&D type game mechanics and some thoughts about each of them in turn. Today I was going to talk about armor class, and I want to talk a little bit about the way it's used in D&D. I'm not worried so much about ascending versus descending armor class. The basic mechanic is still the same idea, that depending on the armor you're wearing or whatever protection you have, you are harder to hit and therefore less likely to get hurt. In a lot of other games, and RuneQuest did this, BRP in general does this, GURPS does this, armor is treated as damage absorption. And I totally understand that mechanic. It makes perfect sense. The idea that, if you're wearing, chainmail or plate mail or whatever it is, that there's this layer of whatever, leather, steel, what have you, between you and whatever it is trying to hurt you. And therefore, if the, monster does 6 points of damage, if you have 6 points of armor, then it's going to absorb that damage, and it's not going to actually reach you and do any wounds, any injury. Now, like I say, I have no problem with that mechanic, but at the same time, I also understand the D&D armor class concept. And again, like when I was talking about hit points in the last episode, it's fairly abstract, and it's not a question of versus deflection versus absorption. To my thinking, it's kind of both. The idea being, when you talk about someone scoring a hit in D&D on an opponent, what they're doing is, it's not their weapon is coming into physical contact. They're delivering a telling blow. It's something that's aimed well enough or has enough power behind it or what have you, that it's going to actually really affect the character, the opponent. So when you say you have leather armor, which in some versions is AC 8 or AC 7, then what that's saying is it's reducing the chance of a significant hit getting through by a given amount. Ascending armor class, you're talking AC 11, AC 12, or what have you. And then you go down from there, down the list. You can chainmail, scale mail, plate mail, whether you have a shield, etc. And this ties into a certain degree with the what I was talking about last episode about the abstract nature of hit points. The idea that it's not about, did this spear touch you or not. It's about, did this spear get through your armor, or did it strike hard enough that enough force got through that even if it didn't stab you, if it could jar you or cost you a couple hit points. And what this means is, narratively or descriptively, this isn't all being spelled out through the rules, but it can be described that way, and it doesn't actually have to be changed mechanically to make that fit. So it's a question again of how much bookkeeping and how much granularity you're seeking in the rules. I don't think that it's a question of one set of mechanics is, technically superior to the other. I will say, and this is just a little aside, this also relates to the idea of the touch attack, which was a term that I first heard used when referring to it in 3rd edition. But it does exist in some of the older TSR classic D&D products and things as well. And that's the idea that something just trying to touch you, it doesn't have to get through your armor. It's more just about, can you make contact, and then you ignore the physical armor that the person's wearing. And that's a relatively simple mechanic to do. You just go back to the base armor class, whether it's 9 or 10, depending on whatever version you're using, and then you adjust for things like dexterity, and you ignore things like armor. In some versions, if you're wearing something like a ring of protection, that counts, etc., etc. Again, a very simple way to handle it, and it doesn't really matter whether you're talking about ascending versus descending armor class. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about armor as deflection or armor as hit point damage, absorption. It's just you just go with it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've, after fiddling around with a lot of systems, kind of came back to using that simple system, because it does the job and it does it very easily. And maybe it's my own personal experience, but it's one that I'm very familiar with and I don't have to think about. So, that gives me more time and more energy and more brain power to, focus on just playing the game. So that's Armor Class, and that's really all I got to say about that. So take it easy.